This is the CAD 111 Pro Engineer Wildfire 5 midterm exam review. In this review, we're going to take a look at how to generate the assembly and drawings necessary to complete the midterm. We begin by looking at the Word document that's accompanied with it in the folder, and basically the first step is to create an assembly and begin to make components as drawn in the gearbox assembly drawing. Then we'll go ahead and model a gasket that's shown on page 4 of this grouping here, and then we'll model the rear casting, which you'll see in just a little bit. And I also have in there, you should try and model it using the top-down assembly modeling method. It's much faster than using bottom-up. And then we're going to go ahead and create an assembly. Actually, we're going to go ahead and mate this up with the last of the parts, and we'll create the final drawing, which should look like this: an exploded view of the gearbox with the bill of materials and your name and balloons. So let's begin. Go to File, New, and we'll start with the assembly, and I'll call this the MT for midterm 111, and hit OK. I'm going to first set up some of my display settings. And enhance the image by increasing the quality and showing the edges. Alright, go over here to Assemble, and we have to search for the parts. In my case, I have them on my E drive, but in your case you'll probably find them on the W drive, CAD classes, Sakura, Pro Engineer, CAD 111, and then sample files, midterm. Okay, and here we go, sample files, and we'll find the midterm folder. And the first thing we're going to bring in is the front casting. I'm just going to hit open, and I'm just going to click anywhere to drop it. And what I want to do is I want to lock it onto the assembly origin. So instead of automatic here, I could go with default, and then I just hit apply. Now I'm going to go ahead and add a few of the other parts. So I could go over here to the assemble again, and I'm going to go ahead and drop in the pinion. Actually, we'll drop in the bearings. There's long and short bearings. We'll go ahead and add a, let's see, in this case we need a short bearing, just one. And I'll drop it close in proximity to where I want to attach it. Then I'll zoom up, select this face to that inside kind of bronze color face there to align it, concentric. And then I want to line the bottom of this surface here coincident to that surface right there. And then over here I just have to make sure that I could click on this and we have an option for coincident. And then I'll do the same with another bearing. We'll put it in on the other side. So assemble. And this will be the long bearing. Hit open. And again, place it in close proximity to where we'd like to have it. I'm going to turn my planes off temporarily just so I can see this a little bit better. And again, select this outer face here of the bearing to the bronze colored face there. And that will make it concentric. And then we'll flip it around and select this bottom side face to attach coincident to this top face here. And again, we have to make sure we set it to coincident, or we could actually double click on here and change it to 0 for the distance. But I'll go with coincident. Okay, and our bearings are in position now. Next thing to insert, we'll go ahead and drop in the pinion. Again, the pinion is going to go near the top, so I'll get that close in proximity. and then we'll make this, we could select these cylindrical face here to the cylindrical face of the bearing, and then we'll do a coincident from this bottom surface to this surface here on the recess. And again, we'll set this to coincident, hit apply. And now we could drop in the spur gear. So we go to Assemble, find the spur gear, get close in proximity. Again, cylindrical face to the cylindrical face of the bearing. And then in this case, because this is going to dart out a little bit beyond that surface, we could actually make this face of the gear coincident to this face of the other, of the pinion. And there we go. Alright, that's all the parts we need for right now. Actually, we could drop in the other parts, the other bearings, which that's what I'll do. I go to Assemble. We're going to put in more long bearings, one here, and in this case we'll make that concentric to this face. And then you could see it's on automatic mode right here. If you don't like an automatic place using interface, you place it manually and it won't pre-select these faces. But because we've added other bearings, it recognizes the faces we selected last time. In this case, actually, it's selecting the bottom surface, which isn't appropriate. So I'm going to go with manual, and I'm going to select this top surface right here to mate coincident to this surface here, and make sure it's set to coincident, and hit apply. The other bearing will drop in once we have the rest of the assembly surrounding it, because that one actually darts out a little bit out of the surface of the casting that we'll create. Okay, the next item business is to actually create a gasket on this surface. So we could use the top-down method of modeling, and that's found over here under Create. Click on Create, and we get the Component Create dialog that pops up on the right. We'll call this the gasket, and it's supposed to be a part, and it's a solid. Hit OK. And then we could copy existing data. No, we don't want it. We want it empty. And hit OK. Alright, and now we see the gasket over here on the left. What we need to do is we could click on that, and we'll activate it. By right-clicking on it, you'll get the option Activate, which allows us to edit it. We'll begin by starting a sketch on, we could actually start a sketch on the front plane here of the assembly, which just so happens to be right on that surface. If you select that surface, which you can do, it's fine. It's just that by dropping everything in the assembly, there's a better way, as we might have discussed in class, where everything has a centralized origin, versus if you drop it on that surface, the origin is not centralized with the other parts inside the assembly. So it's just a matter of whatever you prefer. I personally like the benefits of having it centralized. And I'm going to go ahead and hit Sketch, and now it's going to prompt me for some references. Now references could be anything off of here. We could actually select planes. If we turn on our planes, we could select the assembly right and the assembly top planes, and we'll hit Close. And now what I want to do is I want to capture that outside surface for this gasket. So we could use the Use tool, and we could select Loop or Chain. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and see if I could get the loop to work. I'm going to click on Loop and select. In this case, it's not so easy. Let me see if I rotate it around. Maybe I could get that surface. There we go. I'm going to select this surface here, and it will highlight what it's going to grab. In this case, I'm not getting a very good preview, but I'm going to hit Next. And we can see it's like a purple highlight. You can see it right down there. I'm going to keep hitting Next till it gets the outside of the geometry, and there it goes. Now you can see it's all like a purplish color on the outside. Hit Accept, and just hit close. Okay, now we stole that sketch geometry. This is why that's a benefit. You don't have to draw in all the dimensions. It's supposed to be the same size anyway, so it doesn't matter. Now, actually, I probably should have kept that up because we're going to grab the inside surface too. So if we go to Use again, we go to Loop and select that surface. And again, under Select Chain, just keep hitting next till you get the inside. And you'll see what that looks like in a moment. And there it goes. So I hit next, and we can see there's a pale purplish line on the inside there. Hit Accept. And now we just need to get those holes. So go to Use again, and we could just do, we'll do the single. Actually, these are broken up into several surfaces, so maybe chain might be a better option. So I'll click there, and there, that grabs the hole. I'll accept that. And it'll give us a little message. Endpoints of the chain are coincident. Do you want to convert them to a loop? Yes. And just keep going through. You have to select at least 2 edges in the menu manager, then hit Accept. Oh, actually it didn't grab them all. So let's try that again. In this case, I'm just going to do single. It seems to work a little better. The chain is not always successful, but you just have to make sure you get all the edges. Okay, and that should be it. I'm going to hit close, and now we just go to Done. Okay, and we have a failure to regenerate here. Let's edit that sketch again. Apparently there might be something that it didn't like. Let's try that. I'm not sure what happened there. I just went back in and then rebuilt it. But apparently it likes it now. So I'm going to go to Extrude. And this only gets extruded 30 thousandths. So 0.03. And make sure it's not extruding into the part. It should be extruding the opposite direction. So I'm going to hit the reverse switch here. And then hit Apply. And there it is. The gasket. Now if you want, it's maybe not a bad idea to go to View and under Display Set, I'm sorry, over here we have the color option, the appearance gallery. If you hit the little arrow, maybe change that to red. Okay, well you have to get out of the edit mode here. So I'm going to go ahead and just right click at the very top of the feature tree and hit Activate. Okay, the next part that we want to address is that you can see some of the colors I've just updated and changed just to highlight it so you can see it better on the screen. We want to go ahead and start building the rear casting. Now to do that, we should probably bring up the drawing, which is in a Word document, and we could see the details here of the rear casting, and there's a lot of dimensions that are there, but we don't really need to use all those dimensions, just a few of them. So let's begin. First of all, we want to drop in a new part, so we go over here to Create. We'll call this the rear casting, and we'll leave it empty for creation method and hit OK. Now over here under the rear casting, we could go ahead and right click on it and activate it. Once again, we could start a sketch. In this case, we'll start a sketch on the top surface of the gasket because that's where our part is supposed to begin. You can select that face, hit the sketch option, and again it will prompt us for some references. Just select the assembly top and right planes and hit close. Now, using the loop tool again, we could steal the edges off of the other part. So we'll go over here to Use, select Loop, select this face here, and just keep hitting Next until you get a preview of the outer face, or outer edge actually, highlighted in that light purplish color. And then hit Accept. Okay. Now be careful not to actually try and put those features or the holes in here yet. Right now this is just going to be a solid extrude, and then we'll shell it out when we're ready. So here I'm going to hit Done, and I could go to Extrude, and then if we look at the drawing, and I'll zoom up here, drawing indicates that it's going to be the thickness of this flange is 1/4 of an inch. And here we go ahead and we extrude this, and we can just double click on this number here and type in 0.25, hit enter a second time, and now we have the base flange created. The next thing I'm going to do is actually I'm going to select this backside face to actually start constructing the rest of the model. And what I can do also is let's go ahead and go to Sketch, and again I could actually just click on that backside face, or I can just select this face too. That works. Start a sketch. Again, for the references, you can select the vertical and horizontal plane. And now we just need to offset this geometry. And according to the print, we can see that the offset here, now these numbers were with draft, and I'm not going to have you put draft on it. So basically we have 3.5 for the radius here, and this is actually says 2.987, so if we round it off to 3, so it's a 1/2 inch thick flange. So we have to offset everything by 1/2 inch. So we go over here next to the Use tool, there's the offset. Select Loop, select this face, and we can see the little arrows pointing up and out, so we have to put a minus sign in then. So it goes in, so minus 0.5, and hit enter, and now we have our offset. We could hit close, and now we could extrude. Alright, and if we look at the blueprint here, we could see that the flange here is our 0 marker, and the top of the flange is 0.25. Then this next level that we have to extrude this out is 1.12. So we need to subtract 1.12 from, or I should say 0.25 from 1.12, which comes to 0.87. So we go ahead and hit Done, Extrude, 0.87, and hit Enter. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and start another sketch on this top face. Hit Sketch, and again you can select the vertical and horizontal planes. And now we're going to go ahead and draw a circle right at the bottom center here. And this needs to be extruded, actually not extruded just yet. This needs to be a diameter of 3 inches. And set it to 3 inches. And then the depth from here, if we take a look at this, again we could do the math. And if we do the math here, we could see that we have to subtract 1.12 from 1.62, which is basically a 1/2 inch. So 0.5. So this gets extruded a 1/2 inch high. So hit Done, Extrude, 0.5, hit Enter. There it is. The last feature here for an extrusion, we select that face to start a sketch on. Again, Vertical and horizontal planes can be used for the references. And we need to draw a circle here. Now, what I would suggest is using the concentric circle tool. Select this edge and drag it out. In the middle, click a couple times. And this diameter needs to be 2 inches. And this gets extruded 3/4 of an inch. So 0.75. Okay, now we need to add the rounds. For the rounds, you can see the typical is 0.25 on all these edges on the top. But on the flange, it's 0.125 between the outer edge of the flange and the inner edge. So we'll go ahead to the rounds tool and 0.125 and just select this edge here and this edge here and hit done. Now go back to rounds and put in 0.25, and that will be this edge here, this edge at the base, that one at the top, and this one at the base. But do not fill at the top, and hit done. Okay, at this point we could go ahead and we could shell this. So to shell this, basically we want to hide some of these front parts so we could access that face to select. So we could just go ahead and find the front casting and right click and we could hide it. Or notice there's an open option too, which we could open up the actual part we're working on, which is the rear casting, and work from there. But I'm going to go ahead and hide the front casting temporarily. Now we go to the shell command and make sure you still have that little green star on the rear casting. That means it's being edited. If not, you can right click and activate it. Go to shell, and the typical wall thickness here is 0.25. And we just have to make sure we select that face at the top to remove and hit apply. Now with it shelled, it's a good idea to go ahead and start putting in some of the rounds on the inside. So we'll go ahead and start with the rounds tool, and we'll just make 0.125 our default on the inner edge here. Also, you could select that edge there and leave the other one alone on the other side. We do need to cut out this hole here though. So to do that, we could actually rotate this around, start a sketch on this top surface, and we could use the outer edge as a reference. If you want, go ahead and turn on the planes again and use those planes as references too. And if we look at the blueprint, it's 1.447 through. So let's go ahead and we can select concentric again, or just a regular circle now that we made a reference. And then just double click 1.447. Hit done. Extrude it. Flip it so it cuts into the part, and make sure you select remove material. And you could select through all as well, which is right here. Okay, some of the other elements we need to address here are going to be, we're going to make a boss in the center to hold that bearing in place, as well as some ribs. So we could actually just open up this part by itself while here. So I'm going to right click on the rear casting and hit open. This makes it a little easier because we're actually working now within just the confines of our own part file. You don't have to worry about the rest of the assembly getting in the way. Alright, we'll start off by starting a sketch on this bottom surface. and we'll select this edge as one of these concentric edges as a reference. And then again, notice we don't have the planes any planes here in a part file. So we could select a vertical edge, and we could also select a point here as a horizontal edge, and then hit close. So it could be pretty much anything you want to select for some sort of reference, and this is what it's going to try and base dimensions off for us. Now we could take a circle tool, and since we have that, if you don't have that as a reference on the outer edge, be sure to use concentric, and then you can select the edge. But since I have that reference, I could just go ahead and draw this out. Now let's look at this here. This hole needs to be 1.394 in diameter. So 1.394. And then we know there's going to be an offset of 0.25. So we could actually draw an offset circle if we want, or else we could do this. We could actually just go to Done, Extrude, and we have some options here. First of all, we could go ahead and hit this little button, which is Thicken Sketch. And now we know it needs to be 0.25 thick, so we select 0.25. We could flip it so the thickness is on the outside, and that's what we need. And this is 0.75 high for the extrusion. And hit Apply. Okay, you'll have to add 3 degrees of draft on this. So if you remember the draft tool, it's over here. Click on Draft. The references, the draft surfaces will be these faces here. So hold Control and select those 2 outside faces. The draft hinge will be this top surface. And then we could actually see we could add 3 degrees of draft by clicking on that little dot and dragging it. And you see it's thickening on the outside. Or else you could type in 3 degrees here and make sure it's just going in the proper direction. Go ahead and add another round on the inside there. On 0.125. Now we need to add the ribs. So we'll start our sketch on this top surface. Again, we could select an edge as a reference, even a point there as another reference, or make a concentric reference. And we'll proceed. Okay, so here we are going to draw a line across here, and you could infer to this point. Drag it across, middle click, and over here somewhere, and you don't have to make these extend all the way to the edges, just have short little lines. So we're going to use the rib tool. Click there, middle click. Now you see this one's going to be difficult because we can't really lock in to a point. So what we can use instead, if we hit the little arrow to the right of line, find center line, or geometry center line, and then click on that center point and drag it straight up to make a center line. Now you could go back to the ordinary line tool here, and right about there click and drag out a little horizontal line, a little vertical line. Middle click a couple times and some dimensions will appear. If you want, you could adjust them, but they're already locked in to vertical and horizontal relationships to the center of the circle. So we could just hit Done. Now what we want to do is use the rib tool. The trajectory rib is our choice. We'll go ahead and click on that. We could see a little preview here. We want to make sure that the rib is 0.25 thick. And then over here we want to add draft while we're extruding. And then we could go ahead and select Add Rounds. This will ensure that there's rounds on the bottom. And we could even make it rounded on the top, but I'm not going to. And then just hit Apply. And now you have the ribs. Okay, now we could go back to the assembly. So let's go to Window and find the MT111 assembly. And you can see it's updated now with our ribs inside there. And at this point, we need to put the holes in now. And we could see that they're not in here, so those through holes need to be positioned. So we make sure we edit the rear casting part. To do that, you right click on it and activate it. So we get that little green star. Start a sketch on this surface here, and we'll select the vertical and horizontal for our references. And now we could probably go to wireframe. You can see the little red edges there on mine. Yours might not be red because I colored mine red. And then over here we select just the Use tool. And I'm going to leave it on single again and just select the edges necessary for the holes. Just make sure there's no openings. If you accidentally grab something by mistake, that's common, and we'll be able to delete it in just a moment. So you can see I selected those edges, unfortunately, because I didn't zoom up close enough. And all we want to do is just delete those. Once I hit close, I could select this line here, hit delete, and this line here, and hit delete. It keeps references, not to worry. Okay, now I'm going to just go ahead and hit done. We could go back to shaded mode, and we could extrude those. Flip the direction and remove material, and select through all. Alright, now we could bring back our front casting as the rear casting is complete. That was worth 100 points. So right click on this and hit unhide. And actually we could right click at the top of the assembly and hit activate. And that will take us out of the part editing mode. Alright, we need to insert one more part here, another bearing. So we go over here to the assemble, find the long bearing, get it close into proximity, select the cylindrical faces, and in this case, again, it's going with the automatic. Let's go with manual placement and select this face to lock into that face. Make sure you select coincident and apply. Alright. The last stage here is to bring it into a drawing, create the bill of materials, and explode it. So actually we need to explode it next because we do that here in the assembly. So to explode this, we need to go to View, Explode, and just hit Explode View, or actually Edit Position. Now you'll see it will have some prearranged explosion going on there. That's okay. We need to add to it. So what we need to do here is we just need to select a reference like an axis or an edge. And what we can do for that is we could click on edge there, or that part, and we see the little X and Y and Z. You just grab, like in this case, the Z line, and you could drag this forward for that particular part with the left mouse button depressed. I'll click on this part, find that same little line, drag it out. The gasket, we can probably move that back there. If we look at our print, if we want to match it, you don't have to match it exactly, but try and get it pretty close. Okay, it looks like the gasket needs to be put in front. And then bearings, position them accordingly. Okay, then hit done. Now we need to save that, so we need to take a picture of it. Here's a little camera, View Manager, click on that. Under the View Manager, you'll see you have explode. Click on explode, create select new, and it'll ask us, do you want to save the modified to explode? Just hit yes. And then here we'll use it as our default. Hit OK, update default, and close. That's going to prompt you. Are you sure you want to abort this? It wants to create another exploded view for you. We don't need it. Just hit OK. We have the one saved as our default. Alright, now we could go ahead and start our drawing. So we go to New, Drawing, and you could call this Midterm 111. Hit OK. And we'll go with the empty with format, browse, select the A format, and hit open, and OK. Alright, now to start inserting views, just right click, we just want one, and go to Insert General View. Just hit OK here, and left click to drop it. Under the Drawing view, select Isometric, and hit Apply. Under Scale, we might want to scale this a little bit larger, so we'll go to 0.2 and see how that looks. That's pretty good. Okay, now it actually changed it to 0.198, to like 0.2, but that's okay. It's close enough. We'll go to View States, click on Explode, and hit Apply. Alright, we could actually make that a little bit larger now that I look at it. So under Scale, let's put in 0.4. Too much. 0.3. There we go. Okay, if you need to move the view, right click on it and uncheck Lock View Movement. Then you can relocate it. As far as the scale goes, we could keep that there for right now. We have to go to Annotate if we want to move it, but we will move it just shortly. We need to now put in the bill of materials. To insert the table, you have to click on the Table tab up at the top left, select Table from File, and then go to User Formats on the left here. And under DTE Formats, double click, and you'll find the BOM table. Go ahead and hit Open, and then drop it in the upper left-hand corner, and it should have all the information needed for all the parts. Now we need to insert the balloons. So we could go over here to BOM Balloons, on Table, and we select the actual region of the table. Select that, and then you click here to Create Balloons, hit Show All, and done. Now to move them, you just click on them, and now you can drag them wherever you like. Click on them one time so they turn red, and then hold down the left mouse button a second time, and you can relocate them. Okay, as far as the scale goes, the text there, go to Annotate. You could click on the text and locate, maybe if you want to drop it in there, that's fine. Or you can right click on it and find Erase. Now let's go ahead and put in our name. So under Annotate here, we find the text option right here. It's a little A. Click on that. And over here under Menu Manager, just hit Make Note. Click where you want to drop it. I'll just drop it right in there. And I'm going to go ahead and type in my name. Hit Done. And Done again. And there it is. Then you can hit Done on the Menu Manager. Now we just need to print it out. To print it out, go to Publish, and PDF is probably the cleanest way. Select PDF and Export. It's going to create it. We'll just hit OK. And it will appear using Adobe Acrobat. And there it is. Now using Acrobat, we could actually go to our Acrobat Reader. You could go to the Print tool, and then under the printer, use the ATC 208 5200 printer, and just hit OK. Print it out and turn it in, and that's it.